Hi, my name is Stacy Pitts, and I'm the co-founder of CBD BioCare. And joining me today is Dr. Frank Michalski. He is a functional medicine physician and chiropractor in Buffalo, New York, and he's also our CBD BioCare expert. And today we're talking about sleep. So, hello, Dr. Frank.
Yes. Hello, Stacy. How are you?
I am wonderful. And this is an important topic to a lot of people. CBD is why I get a good night's sleep finally. It helps what I call calm the noise. I take it right before I go to bed, maybe within 15 minutes. And instead of waking up throughout the night, or if I do wake up in the middle of the night, I go right back to sleep. And I'm getting a sound sleep every single night thanks to CBD. In fact, I know if I haven't taken my CBD because when I go to bed, I lay there and my mind starts racing and I go, oh, and I jump right out of bed and go take the CBD. So let's talk about CBD for sleep. And I know you well enough to know that you're going to first explain what sleep is, why it's so important to our bodies, and give us a good overview. And then we're going to talk about how CBD is helping people.
Yeah, of course. I'll jump right into it. So I think I'll preface the conversation with how do we wind up sleeping during the day? Like, what is it that occurs that determines in our body our sleep-wake cycle? How does our body know when we're supposed to be awake? And how does our body know when we're supposed to be asleep? So I'll start with prefacing there. We have an internal alarm clock. I don't know if you've ever heard anyone say, oh, I wake up at the same time, it's Sunday and I really wanted to sleep in, but I woke up at 6 a.m. just like I do Monday through Friday for work. So you actually have something called your circadian rhythm in your body. And this is think of it as literally a rhythm or a cycle that occurs throughout a 24-hour period. So this circadian rhythm determines your bowel movements. It determines your blood pressure. It determines your body temperature. Someone might wake up during the day and say, oh, I always have to go to the bathroom between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. And then I find at noon, I'm always, my blood pressure spikes or all these different things. And what determines your circadian rhythm is melatonin production. So we're talking about sleep, and a lot of people who try and sleep at one point or another, they've probably tried melatonin. So melatonin is actually a hormone that's produced in your body in the lack of sunlight. So as the day goes on, it gets darker and darker out, and your body starts to make more melatonin. Melatonin really is what regulates this circadian rhythm in your body. Now, again, this rhythm can be interrupted by all types of things. So if you have a lot of kids and they have sporting events at weird hours, if you travel, if you work a night shift, certainly other lifestyle factors like nutrition, alcohol intake, nicotine usage, caffeine usage, all of these things can influence our body's internal alarm clock. So with that being said, it comes down to, okay, when we do sleep and if this rhythm is functioning properly, why do we sleep and what is it that is important about sleep? Well, there's two primary goals of sleep. The first and foremost goal is restoration, and the second goal is really detox, okay? So when I use the word restoration, what I'm referring to is a consolidation of memories that occurred throughout the course of the day. So we go to work and we have good experiences and we have bad experiences. When we sleep at night, our brain, and we talked about this a lot in that PTSD anxiety podcast, our brain is going to interpret the events that happened during the day, and it's going to organize those into certain parts of our brain. Specifically, last week, we mentioned the hippocampus. This is where you store your good and your bad memories. When you sleep is when your body determines, oh, this was something that was important that happened today. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to utilize this later on. Or this was a very fearful event. I'm going to do my best to remember it, but within reason, so it doesn't keep me up at night. So sleep is where we consolidate our memories and where we convert our short-term memories from the day into long-term memories going forward in the future. The other big part of sleep, what sleep accomplishes, is detox. So just like your body detoxes throughout the day, right? We sweat, we get rid of toxins, we exercise, we release toxins, we eat healthy, we release toxins. Well, your brain is no different. Toxins build up in the brain. So when this happens, specifically, we think of diseases like Alzheimer's disease or early onset dementia. And if you read any studies involving Alzheimer's or early onset dementia, you're going to pull up two things. You're going to see the word tau protein plaques and beta amyloid plaques. These are plaques that build up in our brains. Imagine plaque building up in the arteries. These plaques actually build up in our brains over the course of time. At night, when you sleep, is when your brain's lymphatic system, these are detoxifying tissues, actually clears some of these harmful plaques and harmful proteins, allowing you to function, ideally healthy for the rest of your life. Now, the other big thing too that I tell people is when it comes to these plaques, things like Alzheimer's disease, things like early onset dementia, something people should take a moment and Google right now is stage 3 or type 3 diabetes. Type 3 diabetes would be a big thing to Google. And you're actually going to find that they refer to that as early onset dementia or Alzheimer's disease. So you're going to see some fascinating connections to other podcasts that we've done as we talk about this. Before I continue and before I keep going on this, I want to talk about, you said in the beginning, and I'm sure you know this, and I bet you've heard this from many people. People are not sleeping right now. I know one of the main reasons people come to me and ask me about CBD oil is, can it help me sleep? And I would just like to paint a picture for both our sales reps and people who are listening out there that sleep is a catastrophe right now in the US. And let me read this off. So 50 to 70 million people in the US are reported to have some type of sleep disorder. 50 to 70 million people. 48% of people, that's almost half, snore at night. Now, snoring in many cases is a sign of obstructive sleep apnea. So that's a problem. 37.9% of people have reported falling asleep unintentionally at least once in the last month. Now, imagine trying to be at work. If you're driving the kids to school, that's not a good situation. The two scariest statistics that I was able to pull up when it comes to sleep, each year in the United States, there's an accounted for 100,000 deaths in a hospital setting due to physician sleep deprivation. So 100,000 deaths due to physician mistakes in a hospital setting due to sleep deprivation. And an equally alarming number was the amount of fatalities from drowsy driving, which in some states you can now receive a ticket. It's very similar to driving under the influence. If you're driving under sleep deprivation, we're suffering 1,550 deaths a year and 40,000 non-fatal injuries from sleep deprivation. So when patients come to me and they say, I'm not sleeping, one of the things I like to say is, you're not alone. And I'm so glad you brought this up because we have a lot to talk about when it comes to sleep. So those are just some of the basics when we start talking about sleep.
Well, we can all relate. Sometimes it's a problem during a period of time in your life, or sometimes it's a chronic problem that goes on for many days, many weeks, many months, right? And then it's almost like a psychological problem for some people because they keep telling themselves, I can't sleep, and all of a sudden they're right, they absolutely can't sleep. So there's so many different things that we need to consider. And one thing that was really fascinating to me at one point is I was told that sleep is involuntary. I happened to be at a car accident scene. Unfortunately, this college student was on his way back to school and fell asleep at the wheel and died at the scene. And it was just a terrible situation. But the officer at that scene said sleep is involuntary. So it really is alarming if you think about that. Our bodies at some point are going to shut down. But in order to be healthy, to your point, to prevent disease, to prevent a number of ailments that can happen due to lack of sleep, if we refer to that example that I just gave, it can be life-threatening. So let's talk about what people can do. We obviously want to steer them away from a long-term use of sleeping pills or anything along those lines. So let's talk about what people can do to ensure that they're getting a good night's sleep.
Of course, this is fantastic. So I think the best place to start with that is what actually qualifies as a good night's sleep, right? And I don't know if we have any listeners out there or viewers who have said, oh my gosh, I slept for 2 hours last night, but I feel really good today. And then I slept for 8 hours the other night and I feel terrible today. So what is it that's determining a good night's sleep, and how do we get a good night's sleep? So let's start by just defining what determines a good night's sleep. So when you sleep, you go through a series of cycles, okay? Sleep is just a series of cycles and cycles and cycles. There's different stages of sleep that we experience as humans, okay? So stage one would be considered a light sleep. This is where your body, your brain waves actually start to slow down just a little bit. You don't really have many body movements. Involuntarily, your body starts to slow down. And maybe we start to see a slight decrease in body temperature. That's stage one, that's light sleep. A lot of people that we talk to who use sleeping devices and sleeping trackers, they realize, oh my gosh, I'm just stuck in light sleep all night long, right? Because sleep comes down to quality, not even so much quantity. So stage two is what we'll call moderate sleep, or yeah, let's just call it moderate sleep, stage two. In stage two, this is really where some of that resting and restoration starts to happen. Your brain waves start to slow down a little bit more. The muscles become even more relaxed. You're not moving at this point, and that some of that healing starts to begin. Now, the most studied, I should say, the most focused stage of sleep is stage three. And this is what is referred to as deep sleep, okay? So this is that person who's saying, I slept 6 hours one night, 8 hours one night, 12 hours one night, and I can't figure out what makes me feel good and feel bad. Well, a lot of that comes down to the amount of deep sleep that your body's getting, okay? It's during deep sleep that your body releases growth hormone. This is what you need for your joints and your tendons and your tissues to repair. This is the state in which your body starts to heal the immune system. This is the state in which your body rests and recovers. This is also where all of that consolidation of memories occurs. It's during the stage three deep sleep. So of course the question is, how do we encourage more deep sleep? Well, exercise has been shown to encourage deep sleep, okay? We've also seen deep sleep be encouraged from people spending time in a sauna or practicing a hot yoga or a meditation, something along those lines. All of those things help to encourage deep sleep, and deep sleep is extremely important. This is where the magic happens, and unfortunately, this is where most Americans are lacking. And then lastly, we have the last stage of sleep, or stage four, which is REM sleep. People have heard of this before. I'm sure they've read about it. This is the rapid eye movement part of sleep. This is really where you dream. And when you're dreaming, your body, this is involuntary. It's in a state of essentially paralysis. You can wake up from this point. You can shoot up with a night terror because your heart waves are, or your brain waves are actually similar to that of an alert state. But REM sleep is where you're dreaming. This is where that healing and restoration continues. I'll say on a quick side note about REM sleep, for people who do use THC containing products, it does kind of eliminate REM sleep. A lot of people who've used THC chronically say, I don't have dreams anymore. I haven't had a dream in a long time. The jury's still out on the importance of that. How important is REM sleep if we're getting deep sleep? Just a side note there. So we talked about some basics of how to increase deep sleep. Before I go into some more details on it, what happens if we're not getting deep sleep? What diseases are we seeing being fueled by a lack of proper sleep? Let me hit some of the big ones. Heart disease, diabetes, autoimmune disease, memory loss. I can't tell you how many people come in and say, I just have no memory anymore. I feel like I'm forgetting everything. We see it all the time. And micronutrient deficiencies. Now, two of the biggest ones that I would like to hammer away at, or that we already did in previous podcasts, anxiety and addiction. People who aren't sleeping, their rates of anxiety and addiction tend to be through the roof. These people tend to turn to alcohol, nicotine, chronic marijuana usage to sleep. Sleep aids over the counter, chronic usage of them, other drugs, right? So if we're not sleeping, we're increasing our chances of addiction and we're increasing our chances of anxiety. Well, this is horrible because if you remember the last week, we said, what's anxiety really due to? It's due to that part of our brain not processing day-to-day activities or day-to-day memories how it's supposed to. So it's a cycle, right? If we don't sleep, we have more anxiety. If we have more anxiety, we're staying up late at night. It's just very vicious. Now, some other things too from a chiropractic standpoint that I care a lot about, people who aren't sleeping properly, they have a lower pain tolerance. That's huge from anyone who's suffering from chronic pain. That lowered pain tolerance is a big deal. Learning disorders, appetite loss can also be seen, and then impairment similar to consuming alcohol. So without further ado, what are some basic things we can do to improve sleep? Well, we've all heard you don't want to be near your phone or near the television. That blue light can be an issue. I'll put a link in our blog right up, but you can actually purchase glasses that prevent that blue light if you are someone who likes to watch TV before bed. Exercise is an excellent way to drain some of that excess glucose from the body to get you ready for sleep. Sauna, meditation, yoga. Not consuming alcohol before bed is crucial. And I'll tie this one into menopause, oddly enough. If we consume alcohol, that can actually raise our body temperature. It can cause problems. In order to get a good night's rest, you should actually see a slight drop in body temperature. That's why a lot of women who suffer from hot flashes going through menopause cannot sleep very well, because of that elevation in body temperature. It actually ruins our body's ability to enter that deep stage of sleep. Alcohol has the same issues. So I drive this home every time. I can't tell you the amount of people who say, oh, I just love having a beer before bed or a glass of wine. You should really try and avoid that. Caffeine sensitivity. A lot of times I'll hear people say, you know, I drink a cup of coffee in the morning and it's no big deal. I don't drink anything after 3 p.m. If someone has a true caffeine intolerance or sensitivity, they're really going to struggle sleeping at night. When we have patients who can't sleep, we tell them no more caffeine. And they say, but I'm so tired during the day. I need the caffeine. I'm not sleeping. You're driving your body into overdrive by consuming more caffeine. Involuntarily, one day you're going to collapse. Something's going to shut down. Cut the caffeine if you're having problems sleeping. Even half a cup of coffee in the morning can affect some individuals going into the evening.
I have a quick question for you. So I've heard some people say, I have to have that glass of wine in order to get a good night's sleep. So what's really happening if they do sleep that night? Are they entering deep sleep? Or I just want to make sure that people might be saying, well, if I have a beer or a glass of wine, that's the only way I get a good night's sleep.
Stacey, I'm so glad you brought that up. So yes, that initially, maybe once or twice, you might be able to accomplish a deep sleep and be okay. People who do that continuously know their body loses its ability to enter into a stage of deep sleep. So they are falling asleep early, but they're stuck in that stage of light sleep. So there's not actually healing occurring. There's not growth hormone being released. Yes, it's helping them get to bed, but no, it is not promoting deep sleep. It interrupts deep sleep in a very similar way that many medications we use do. Statin drugs have been shown to interrupt sleep. Blood pressure medications have been shown to interrupt sleep. Benzodiazepines, commonly prescribed for anxiety, have been linked to insomnia. How do you manage anxiety if you're not sleeping and you see the mess that this is? But a lot of these medications pose the same issues that alcohol actually does, and it's keeping people stuck in a stage of light sleep. Excellent question.
Well, then a lot of people talk about the CBD. We hear that all the time. And because I have such great success, of course, it's something that I talk about and I share my story. Because I wasn't in a chronic state, I just was finding myself tired and again, not being able to stay asleep, or if God forbid I woke up in the middle of the night, which at my age I'm doing several times a night, and then I couldn't go back to sleep. And it was so frustrating. And I was always afraid. I almost kept my eyes shut going to the bathroom because I was like, oh, I'm going to wake up and not be able to go back to sleep. You know, so many people can relate to that. So let's talk about how CBD is helping people and why it's helping people. And let me just add that I have some people that say, you know, I started taking CBD for XYZ, but what I really noticed is it helped me get a good night's sleep. And there's so much value to that. if you are in pain and you're not getting a good night's sleep, it's a double whammy, right? If you're in pain but you get a good night's sleep, all of a sudden maybe your pain is decreased. So let's talk about the use of CBD and why CBD is helping people. Some people, it's not going to be a cure-all for everyone, but why it's helping people with sleep.
Sleep, and to your point too, the when people sleep is the missing link to health, they're starting to say now, right? So if we sleep, we're addressing pain, we're addressing anxiety, we're addressing diabetes, we're addressing cardiovascular issues. So to your point, that sleep is the missing link, and what a great thing if CBD is able to help promote a good night's sleep. So right off the bat, I'll just say what we know about CBD and sleep, and actually cannabis and sleep in general, whether it's CBD, THC, whatever it is. Unfortunately, we don't know a ton, okay? They're still trying to figure it out. What stages of sleep are being affected? How is sleep being affected? One thing we can say about CBD is that your endocannabinoid system, and if you recall back to our previous podcast, your body makes its own cannabinoids. And these cannabinoids play a very close relationship in monitoring that circadian rhythm that I mentioned earlier. And that's really why I mentioned it. It's your body's internal alarm clock, its internal systems of functioning, and it appears to depend quite heavily on the health of your endocannabinoid system. So if we can take CBD, if we can promote healthy endocannabinoid levels, it does appear to have a very positive impact on that circadian rhythm, which then in turn impacts our sleep-wake cycle. So we're seeing that, we can say that confidently. Now, most of the positive stuff when it comes to CBD, I wish I could sit here and say it affects this receptor, and we know that serotonin is produced, and that's why we're getting a deeper sleep with CBD. We don't know that exactly, but what we can say about CBD is this. It has been shown to have antidepressant effects. It has been shown to have anti-inflammatory effects. It has been shown to have effects on anxiety and PTSD and helping those. And we're seeing clinical things being done in that setting on those effects. We know if we have less anxiety, we're going to probably be able to sleep better. One of the first questions I ask patients when we're going through a treatment plan is, how is your sleep? I had back pain that was waking me up at night, and now that pain is no longer waking me up during the evenings. That's a great sign to me that we're on the right track. I know we're going to have success with that patient right away. So if we can utilize CBD to help block some of those pain signals and get that person a better night's sleep, we know we're going to have a better prognosis for that individual, a better outcome for that individual. If they are suffering from depression or PTSD, this is where CBD can be a huge help. People who are chronically depressed, people who are bipolar, if they can get relief from some of those symptoms of depression, bipolar disorders, PTSD, their sleep is going to be better. We didn't go too much into sleep and PTSD last time, but I think a lot of our listeners who suffer from that will tell you, I wake up with night terrors. They'll wake up from a sound sleep during that REM cycle of sleep, and they can't fall back asleep. They're terrified. They're sweating. Their heart rate is up. There's been releases of excitatory neurotransmitters and hormones. If CBD can help alter that, that's a great thing for that individual. So I wish I could sit here and say we know exactly how CBD affects sleep. We know exactly how it works. What we can say is this: the endocannabinoid system does seem to play a large role in balancing our sleep-wake cycle. We don't know exactly how, but for right now, it appears to be very positive. And I can tell you from a standpoint of my patients, the amount of people that I come in and they say, I haven't slept like this in 20 years. I sincerely hear that from people all the time. They'll say, I wasn't dreaming and now I did dream again in a very positive way. That's a great thing. And at the end of the day, I understand right now scientifically or clinically, we can't look and say, hey, you had a deeper sleep. But if someone's coming in and telling me I'm more alert at work, I'm more focused, I have less pain, I'm going to go out on a wild guess and think down the line, we're probably going to see that it was beneficial for deep sleep. I'll just say a side note about THC again, even though it's not where we're focused. People who do smoke, people who smoke chronically, when it comes to THC, there may be some benefit to that when it comes to PTSD. Some people may actually want to try and suppress some of their dreams or night terrors, just talk to a physician about that, okay, when it comes to medical marijuana. There may be some benefit. Long term, though, we certainly don't know the effects of chronic THC usage on sleep. So I'm just throwing that out there. While we're talking about CBD too, I find this to be a great solution because let's say we have, and I see this all the time, let's say we have a patient who isn't sleeping because they have pain. So I hate to say it, in the primary setting, it's probably going to be medication-based, or more commonly we see over-the-counter sleep aids prescribed, which basically is Benadryl. And the primary ingredients in Benadryl will actually stunt the release of certain hormones that we need and certain neurotransmitters. One specifically, when we see in pain patients, it's the acetylcholine. And that's vital when it comes to making bowel movements. People on opioids, they usually have a problem with bowel movements. Now they're taking an over-the-counter sleep aid. Now they're having a larger problem with bowel movements. They're in pain. Maybe they're taking a combo sleep aid with acetaminophen in it. I see this all the time. The liver damage that they're potentially putting themselves at risk for. And let's make matters worse by saying it's that individual who's doing the nightcap with a glass or two of wine, with a few beers, a liquor drink. And now we really have a recipe for disaster, right? We have the issues with the GI system. We're facing the liver issues from the acetaminophen, and of course, the combination of the alcohol. Because as we know, a lot of people who don't sleep are prone to consume more alcohol. And I want to say this too. People need to realize that, and I think I emphasize this in most of our podcasts, chronic sleep will catch up to you over time. If you deprive your body enough, as to your point, it will shut down eventually. It will stop. Now, it may be in the form of you just collapsing one day at work and falling asleep like someone who has narcolepsy, or it may be a different system. The one I see very often in the setting that we work is actually cardiac events. If we have someone who's been consuming a lot of alcohol over years of time, you're going to notice water weight starts to accumulate around the heart. They're constantly yawning. Their body is begging for oxygen. It's begging for sleep. And what happens in that case? The heart eventually gives out. So I hate to say it, sleep isn't often discussed in a typical medical setting. And this might actually should be the forefront of things. Because if we fix sleep, we might be able to fix anxiety, depression, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and all these things just feed into each other. CBD, go ahead.
It just brings us to the point that we've been speaking about every time we talk, is that CBD is a component of a holistic approach to whatever you're dealing with. So if sleep is your problem and CBD can help you sleep, then it will also lower your inflammation. It will lower your risk for other diseases. If inflammation is your primary problem and you're lowering inflammation, then you'll probably sleep better. It's all holistic. And you talk about a good diet, you talk about diet and exercise, you talk about all of these different components. So it is a holistic approach. We always say that CBD is a great supplement to add to your diet, add to your regimen, but it isn't the miracle cure-all. If you're eating fried chicken, getting drunk every night, and loading up on all of these other things, not sleeping, CBD is probably not going to help you, right? So it's a holistic approach. And I think that's important to stress, because sometimes people think that if I just take CBD, it's going to take care of all of my problems. CBD has, we always say, it changes lives one bottle at a time, because it is absolutely true. And we see that in one of the greatest categories that CBD is showing great improvement for people is for sleep. And I want to move to talking about how much people should take, because this is a really big component in terms of CBD. I take, depending on what it is, right? If I'm taking our 1,000 milligram or 750, it's anywhere from a quarter to a full drop or a half dropper of the product. I took the 3,500 because that's happened to be what I had, and it did not give me a restful night. It gave me the opposite. I was actually finding that I didn't sleep well because I took too much. If you're taking CBD for sleep and it has the opposite effect and actually keeps you up all night, take less. My mother is the rare person that takes 3 drops of our lowest milligram, which is 500 milligrams, 3 drops, and she gets a perfect night's sleep. If she takes 5 drops, she's up all night. Very, very sensitive. That's rare. But I think talking about serving sizes and taking the right amount and finding your perfect amount is really important.
That's so important, and especially when it comes to sleep. So yes, I've had people who have said they've used it and they've said, hey, this kept me up at night. It didn't seem, I feel great. I'm thrilled with it, but my sleep wasn't as good. Ironically enough, they're still saying, but my energy's up, because we know CBD does other good things too. That's a whole nother topic. But for those individuals, what I usually say is, yes, take less. If it's keeping you up at night, start as low as 2 drops underneath your tongue. Let's say we're talking about the 1,000 milligram concentration. So just 2 drops. See how you do with that. That might be the case for a lot of people. Most people are probably between 5 and I'd say 60 milligrams. I find, and this really does vary person to person, post-menopausal females seem to require more to sleep. After menopause, it seems like you need less to sleep, because, and this is just my experience in dealing with it, the women who have already gone through menopause seem to report that it creates a state of more alertness when they take more of it as compared to drowsiness. So just something I've noticed. I'm sure we could draw that connection one way or another. But most people, I recommend start at that 5 milligrams to 60 milligrams and see how you respond. Now, I actually do have a number of people too, where maybe we just couldn't get it right at night for them. I'll tell them, take it in the morning and the afternoon, and actually don't take it before bed. Maybe just do your dosage of, let's say they're taking a dosage of 20 to 40 milligrams a day. I'll say, look, just take it at lunchtime and let's see how you do with that. And a lot of those people actually come back and say, hey, even though I didn't use it before bed, I'm actually sleeping much better. And again, the dosage is so individualized. Just a little gold nugget there. I've kind of noticed, again, women who have not gone through menopause, and someone might disagree with me on this, that's fine, but I've noticed that they seem to require more to sleep. And I noticed women who have gone through menopause seem to require less when it comes to sleep. They might take more during the day for other types of things, but sleep, they either have to take it, an hour or 2 before bed, or not right immediately at bed. But that'd be my big commentary on that.
And it really is so individual, and that's what we always tell people, is the first bottle is usually a little bit of an experiment, trial and error. You might find that you take a certain amount for sleep and you take a different amount for pain. You may give yourself a little bit throughout the day, and that helps you manage pain, but that you take a little bit different amount for sleep. I know people that take it first thing in the morning for energy. So it is not a perfect science, and it is individual to your own endocannabinoid system. My mother happens to be sensitive to everything. So she knows her system. So she started out really low, and that's what we recommend, is starting low and slow and being aware of how your body responds. I know, Dr. Frank, that you've heard the same thing we have. Some people take it and they know exactly where they're at. Some people take, several days. Some people take several weeks. I have had people tell me, I don't think this is working for me, and they stop taking it, and then they almost call me back or order in a panic state. Oh my gosh, I had no idea how much this was helping me. I need it tomorrow.
Yeah, of course, because they feel so much better. It's funny too, you're talking about people realizing when it works. I've had 2 instances actually where I had the individual's significant other. It was a gentleman and his wife, and he was like, I think it's helping. Now I know it was helping, because I could just tell the difference in this individual. They're someone close to my family. His wife, though, she's like, you have to realize something. He's not snoring anymore. And he has sleep apnea, which there is some very good information out there when it comes to benefiting sleep apnea and when it comes to the endocannabinoid system. But I can't tell you how many people's spouses or significant others have said, listen, I don't care what he or she is saying. I'm telling you right now, they're sleeping like a rock. It's a big difference. And then they'll say, I notice in their mood, I notice it in their energy. So some people, to your point, might be a little more hard-headed than others, but if it's working, it's working. Someone's going to notice, whether it's them or their significant other, whomever it may be. So yes.
Well, absolutely. I think it's been a win-win for me. So this is one of my favorite topics when we're talking about CBD, because I have such such great stories to tell about it. But really, it is up to you as an individual to give it a try. You can go to our website, cbdbiocare.com. Under the CBD 101 tab, there's actually a whole page that talks about trying to find the perfect serving for you. And it's a little bit of an experiment. You can also get in touch with us, and we'll put you right in touch with Dr. Frank and ask him some questions as well. So thank you for your time today and your wealth of information as always. I look forward to our next chat.
Of course. Have a great day, Stacy.
Thank you. You too.